I think a lot of parents who come inside of our programs, they know that they don't want to repeat the same things that were done to them growing up, even though for many years, many of us grow up thinking we're fine. And then we have kids and we realize how freaking hard it is and how easily we get triggered. And then we realize, oh, yikes, there's some things we need to work on here. And maybe we're not as fine as we thought we were, which then leads us to understand that there are things that we really want to do different from how we were raised. But the question is, how do you do that?
Welcome to the Fresh Start Family Show. I'm your host, Wendy Snyder, powerful parenting educator and family life coach. And together we are going on a journey to help you expand your heart, learn new tools, and strengthen your family so you can build the family legacy of your dreams. I'm a mama too turned child and family advocate who went from being extremely stressed out back when my strong-willed little girl was a toddler to now thriving as a parent and having the honor to support thousands of families each year who choose to go from frazzled and impatient to peaceful and empowered. Each week, we will dive in with experts, thought leaders, authors, and advocates with insights to help you thrive in your parenting walk, as well as in your marriage and even in your career and faith walk too. Together, sometimes alone, sometimes with my better half and co-host Terry, we'll explore the triumphs and trials we all face as parents and share practical tools to fill our hearts, minds, and souls with inspiration. Take a deep breath and get ready to be poured into with some fresh start inspiration. Let's do this.
Well, hey there, families, and welcome to a new episode. I'm so happy you're here. Today, I want to chat with you about 5 steps to create a fresh family start in 2025. This is a significant year, you guys. It is the turn of a quarter century, and I really believe that it is the time to embrace change and create fresh starts in parenting and family life. I love a fresh start, of course, founder of Fresh Start Family, and the thought of a clean slate and really doing it your way just lights me up. And so I'm excited to support all of you who decide that this is going to be the year that you really expand your education and step into empowering yourself so you really can be fully at choice in your parenting walk. So I think that a lot of times what motivates parents to step into powerful parenting work is just wanting to learn how to do things differently. I think a lot of parents who come inside of our programs, they know that they don't want to repeat the same things that were done to them growing up, even though for many years, many of us grow up thinking we're fine. And then we have kids and we realize how freaking hard it is and how easily we get triggered. And then we realize, oh, yikes, there's some things we need to work on here. And maybe we're not as fine as we thought we were, which then leads us to understand that there are things that we really want to do different from how we were raised. But the question is, how do you do that? And where do you start, right? How do you do that? Where do you start? And so I thought today I would give you kind of a drone perspective, like a bird's eye view on the biggest segments that we really cover here at Fresh Start Family to work with parents who really want to change the future trajectory of their lives with their children so they are fully harnessing the power of relationship-based, firm, and kind parenting. And really, the first step a precursor to all of this is not just understanding that I think there is a huge responsibility every generation has to do better, to know better, to do better, and to step into making the world a better place. And so for many of us, that comes down to being the ones that are going to end a painful generational cycle or 10. And really that when I use that term painful generational cycle, I know that probably sounds like really intense, but really it just means looking at the patterns that are within your family lineage and deciding that you're going to be the one to step courageously forward to create change in those areas. So some examples of painful generational cycles that I see quite often are family lineages where fear-based influence was the way. And this wreaks havoc on relationships and, of course, is just something that doesn't feel good at the end of the day when, you look at kids doing what they're supposed to because they're scared of a parent versus doing what they're supposed to because they are built to be kind, loving, contributing members of society. Another painful generational cycle is having a lack of emotional literacy in homes. And a lot of times this just comes down to parents just weren't, our parents weren't taught this, our grandparents weren't taught this, great grandparents weren't taught this. And so we really are the first generation that is understanding emotions and psychology on a much different or a much deeper level. I will say I was actually just visiting some family over the holidays and I witnessed someone I care deeply about. Her grandson had just had a child. So this little baby is 11 months old, and this person I love so much had called this her grandson. And so when her grandson picked up the phone, or it was a Zoom call, essentially, when he picked up the phone, he was holding his little 11-month-old baby who had just fallen and like bumped his head or something. It looked like a carpeted area. He was totally fine, but he was upset. And so he probably had fallen down and gotten physically hurt and then also was emotionally scared. And so when he answered the Zoom, the baby was crying. And on top of that, this grandson, the dad, he probably was also feeling stress because he was going to have to talk to his grandma that he loves so much, but has a bit of like a speech impediment now, and it's a little bit hard to hear her. And so there was stress there for him. Maybe he was feeling scared that he wasn't going to be able to hear grandma on top of, being a new father, not quite knowing what to do, and emotional literacy probably never being taught in his family lineage. And so what he ended up saying to the baby as I was sitting there kind of listening, about to say hello to him, was stop it. So stop crying, quit it. And then he said, shut up. And this grandson, I mean, he's got a funny personality. He's kind of to the point. He's a little blunt. And I get it. He was probably just not realizing what that communicates to a young person, a young child at such a young age, right? But that is the norm. That is really it was such a great example when I watched it go down, because that's literally the message we all get from a very young age when we have an emotional reaction to something. They're really, I can't tell you one student that I've ever had, and at this point I've coached and taught thousands and thousands of families, who has said to me, Wendy, I grew up in a home where I was taught how to feel sad, how to feel mad, scared, hurt, and happy, what those feelings look like, how they felt in the body, why they're healthy emotions, why it's safe to feel them, why they make you strong. Like, heck no one, I've never run across anybody who's been taught that. So it makes sense why he was having this response to his child. And then that child is getting the message so early that emotions aren't safe, and that all we are supposed to do as human beings is shut them down and turn them off, right? Which then creates a disconnect in the body, mind, heart experience from a very, very young age. And this is culture. Like, this is just the way it's always been done. And many, many people are stepping up and saying, hey, I'm going to change that. And I'm going to be the first in my family lineage who's actually going to start teaching my kids that it's okay to feel hurt, both physically and emotionally. And it's okay to feel scared. Bravery and courage is on the other side of scared. Nothing ever amazing in this world has been done that required bravery and courage when someone wasn't scared first. Like, angry is a healthy human emotion where justice is born, where firm limits are set from, right? Like, there's just so much beauty to be taught there. But the truth is, for most of us, it was a painful generational cycle of the lack of emotional literacy. Another one that comes to painful generational cycles is communication steeped in guilt, frustration, and intimidation. So just a lot of like guilty communication between parents and kids, and then just a high level of feeling disconnected from kid and parent, child feeling like parents don't understand them, and then parents, constantly being frustrated and irritated with their kids. That's another one. Also, patterns of punishment-based responses then rather than solutions is definitely a very deep, painful generational cycle that I see that's repeated, that's handed down generation to generation. And to be the person who stops or breaks that chain takes a lot of courage and is just so, so beautiful. I even see patterns that are so clear where fathers are really absent. Maybe they're like working so, so much to provide for a family that they miss out on their childhood. And mom ends up becoming very overwhelmed and feeling like she's alone. Marriages often dissolve. I've seen that one within, the Fresh Start family greater community be really thick. Divorce is, of course, a great example of painful generational cycles. These are just some examples. You get what I mean. But all of us, when we have kids and when we enter into a partnership, with people we're going to have kids with, of course, we don't want these present in the future trajectory of our lives. But it takes intention to say, okay, we're going to make a clean slate here and we're not going to carry forward the the cycles of the past or the inheritances that are unhealthy. One of my favorite studies that was ever done that showed how it really is inherited. We talk a lot here about nervous system regulation and healing work. And, we know that the first 2 decades of your life, especially the first decade, but the first 2 decades of your life, what you were conditioned with in your home, especially when it just came to the feeling within your home, that gets kind of baked in to your nervous system. And you come to kind of expect that later in life. And so to do things differently than the way it was done in your house or the way your parents operated is a high degree of difficulty and takes courage and support. But on top of that, there's also the ancestral inheritance that comes from what your grandparents and your great grandparents did. That is also part of your cells at this point. And so this study that they did with mice really showed this very beautifully. They had mice where the bottom of their cage was somehow had like a shocker element, and they pumped in the smell of cherry blossoms into this cage. And when they did that, they would also shock the paws of these mice. And they did that over time to condition the mice to associate the smell of cherry blossoms with the sensation of pain and fear. And then those mice had babies, and they did a separate study where they just took the babies of those mice and they put them in a cage. And these baby mice had never been shocked; their paws had never been shocked. But they did a study where they pumped in the smell of the cherry blossoms just to see how those baby mice would respond. Again, had never been shocked, but when the smell came their way, they had a stress response and jumped. And so it was just such an important study to show that it's not just what you've experienced that often becomes like creates the cycles within family lineages. It also comes from what your cellular inheritance experienced, right? So, like, if you think about a girl has all of her eggs in her mother's womb. So, a female fetus has around 4 to 7 million eggs by the fifth month of pregnancy. At birth, a girl has about 1 to 2 million eggs. So, that's just one example of how, we have this experience of our mom basically when we are in the womb, and even though we are not experiencing that, the cellular implications of trauma on our mother impacts us. And that's not the only reason it impacts us, because having all of our eggs in our mother's womb, I just use that as an example of like it's really interesting when you look at we really are one with our parents, our grandparents, and that's just a great example of that, right? So just remember that the ancestral trauma is just another reason why it takes so much intention to break those generational cycles and condition ourselves to have a different response to the stressor, right? So if it's misbehavior, if it's a kid being disrespectful, if it's siblings fighting, if it's a disagreement with your spouse, if it's, a child that's made a mistake and misbehaved, smacked his sister or stolen, lied, whatever it may be, like we get to learn a new way to respond to that stimulus that is different than our lineage when it comes to our families. And for many of us, there is many inheritances that we do want to keep, right? Like there are so many beautiful things for many of us in the ways that we were raised that we're like, heck yes, we will take that one and we will pass that on. I think of my dad's love for exercise and caring for his body and knowing that that is something that I chose to repeat in my continued family lineage. Like exercise to us, sports, taking care of yourself every day, physical activity, like keeping everything moving and staying active is something that is very important in our family. And really, I look and I'm like, I learned that from my dad because he was really modeled that to me and taught that to me. It's just really a incredible intention when you can look at the year ahead of you and think, okay, there are some generational cycles that I'd like to break, and I want to bring more peace, connection, and collaboration into my home. How do I do that? Well, there are these 5 key areas that we encourage you to look at. The first one being, how are you seeing your circumstances? So we call this the paradigm shifting advantage. We'll be teaching about all of this in our New Year Kickstart Fresh Start Family Challenge. It's our biggest free event of the year that starts in late January. So that's really, really exciting. And we're so just thrilled to offer this again because this free challenge really changes lives for people. But the paradigm shifting advantage really gives you the opportunity and the empowerment to see life through a new lens, to be able to cultivate empathy and see the reason why your children are actually behaving, to be able to recognize suffering in others, especially your kids, especially during misbehavior, and to really be able to shift from seeing misbehavior as defiance to recognizing unmet needs. Families, it is time for our free New Year Kickstart Challenge where I will help you fresh start your family in 5 days with a totally free positive parenting mini course designed to educate, inspire, and empower. So are you ready for a fresh start? We begin on Monday, January 27th. So now is the time to get registered. This completely free 5-day mini course will teach you the root causes of misbehavior so you can redirect your kids towards better behavior and do it in a way where you use compassion, dignity, connection, empathy, and firm, kind limits. So you feel proud and confident at the end of the day about the way you parented when you lay your head on your pillow. This is an easy and fun way to learn live with me for free. And once you register, I'll immediately send you a prep kit with everything you need to know, and you'll be all set to receive your daily, short, and easy to finish mini positive parenting video lessons delivered right to your email inbox daily for 5 days. These lessons are not overwhelming, families, but instead short, punchy, and powerful. And you don't even need to attend anything live. At the end of the week, after completing this free Kickstart program, you'll walk away feeling confident, joyful, creative, empowered, and assured that this new year ahead is going to be the best year of your life as a parent. I am so excited to get to know so many of you as we hang out together through this powerful week of learning. Plus, this free challenge comes with a private community that's not housed on social media, where you'll meet like-minded families from around the globe, and you'll get access to daily live coaching and Q&A sessions with me to help you fully implement what you learn inside of the challenge mini lessons. All around, it's going to be the best way to kick off the new year as the strong, empowered, and confident parent you want to be. Save your seat at freshstartfamilyonline.com/kickstart, or just shoot me a DM over on Instagram with the word kickstart. I'm at Fresh Start Wendy. So we teach inside of our foundations course. We'll also teach more about this in the challenge, but every human being has the need to feel powerful, the need to belong. Those are the 2 biggest ones that I see drive behavior, both good and bad. And then also the need to feel valuable and the need to feel unconditionally loved. Those are just basic human needs. And when a child is misbehaving, they're actually just trying to get a need met. They're not trying to be naughty, selfish, disobedient, all those types of things. But it really does offer an opportunity to challenge that cultural conditioning, acknowledging how society and nervous system patterns make paradigm shifting challenging. Because, as we spoke to, for eons, children have been, basically a section of humanity that were meant to be seen, not heard. So it's like they didn't quite matter as much, right? Yes, we respect kids and we take care of them and all the things, but really like they're a lower section of humanity when you look at how they were treated and their voice as far as does it matter or does it not matter. Many of us who grew up in autocratic homes, it was like your voice didn't really matter. When it came down to it, it was your parents' way or else. And if you challenged that, then there was often a price to pay. So, challenging that cultural conditioning is a beautiful way to start seeing that your kids are just being kids. Yes, we were conditioned to believe that they're being naughty and that you have to make a child feel worse in order to make them behave better. And that doesn't make it true. It just makes it the way that things have always been done, right? Like, so moving into a different way of seeing your children and understanding that it's based in trusted psychology. Once you understand core needs, once you understand categories of misbehavior, it just helps you start each day with the foundational mindset that empowers you as a parent. So you're not reacting to every situation with frustration, irritation, annoyance, and honestly, a victim mindset that if your kids were just easier, then you could finally be happier and relax. And instead, from a viewpoint of like, oh, hey, my kids are being kids, and I have the power to see this in a different light that is going to give me the ability to show patience and to be able to operate with firm kindness instead of intimidation that often will just make things worse, especially with strong willed kids. The second area is really prioritizing learning how to self regulate before misbehavior redirection. And so, for this, this last year, our team, we had been kind of looking at what are the biggest pain points of our students. And at this point, we do have thousands and thousands of students who have gone through our programs, and we keep track of all of the questions. We have thousands of pages of questions. We have thousands of pages of success stories. And because it's so much fun to play around with ChatGPT AI these days, we thought, oh, how can we use this to kind of serve us and help us serve our students better? So we plugged in we plugged in one of our documents, a Google document. I think we might have ended up doing two, but Google Docs like maxes you out about 800 pages or 1,000 pages. That's been our experience. Maybe we just don't have enough room or something, but it maxes you out. And so we uploaded a few of these question docs from our students, and we asked it, what is the biggest pain point of our customers? Like, what is our students, like, what do they struggle with the most in their parenting walk? And it quickly came back with feeling like you are emotionally hijacked and unable to respond the way that you want to in triggering moments. Like that was the number one pain point that parents, when they go to bed at night, have guilt and shame and regret around. And so that was a big eye opener for us because we always kind of thought it was like kids who wouldn't listen that well, kids that pushed back a lot, strong-willed kids or kids that just said no more than they said yes. And what we realized is it's actually this pain point of just wishing that you could calmly and confidently respond to those messy moments that we know parenthood has a million of and just feeling like you can't. So, really looking at, okay, how can I develop a practice of pausing before reacting, creating a space between my child's misbehavior and our response? Using tools like a pause button or a heart connector, which we teach inside of our programs and that we will also cover at the New Year Kickstart Challenge. And then understanding the power of modeling as the number one way to influence your children. So, really, just understanding that kids learn from what we model, not just what we teach, because most of what children learn is caught, not taught. So it really doesn't matter how much you tell your kid to, be nice to their brother when they feel like their brother is like taunting them. If you are not modeling what it looks like to show kindness and patience and compassion to your child when you feel like they are taunting you, your child will never, ever learn the life skill. So it's especially important to highlight that strong willed kids are even more allergic to hypocrisy. So it's if you have a strong-willed kid or at least a kid in a power surge stage of life, just know that they're watching and to really look at this segment of your parenting and say, how am I doing with this? Am I able to really step away? How is my reaction to thing? Am I a yeller? Like, am I willing to change that pattern so I can teach my child how to respond versus react? I promise you that when you get intentional within responding with integrity and self-control, you will see the same thing come out of your child. It just takes getting yourself the help first, before focusing on making your child be more self-regulated. Does that make sense? Okay, next up, number three is, top five steps to fresh start your family in 2025 is understanding why kids actually misbehave. So being willing to learn about the root causes of misbehavior, it's not about your kids being naughty or defiant. As I mentioned earlier, it's about unmet needs and developmental stages. So misbehavior is often just a form of communication. And when you can start speaking the language of that and knowing that when your child might be displaying aggression or defiance, that really they're asking for help to feel more powerful, or that they're in that moment feeling like they are an alien, like no one gets them, you will start to feel so much more empowered and be able to move your child to action or better behavior so much faster than if you just are trying to use the same band-aid reactions to every single misbehavior that comes your way. So the main categories of misbehavior we teach here are revenge, inadequacy, power, and attention. And each of those misbehaviors present in such a different way that if before a parent steps into education with powerful parenting, they might respond to a revenge misbehavior with an attention tactic, and it just doesn't work. It just blows up in your face and it causes more frustration and irritation. And everybody, for the most part, before they learn or expand their toolkit with powerful parenting tools, they're putting the same thing on the fire, right? Timeouts, threats, punishment, shame, and hoping that it's going to make the misbehavior go away. And it just doesn't. It doesn't work. So you gotta, and you're gonna want to. You don't have to do anything. So you don't gotta do anything, but you will, trust me, you want to educate yourself so you can really start shifting from, using those standard one size fits all responses into tactical tools that are for specific categories depending on what's happening with your child. So if they're fighting with a sibling, it's one tool you're going to use. If it's them saying, I hate you, this is the worst family ever, that's another tool you're going to use. If they are arguing with you and not cleaning up their mess or getting in the car for school, that's another category of misbehavior. And if they have separation anxiety and freak out when you leave them at the church nursery, that's another category of misbehavior. But the more you understand that, the more you will be empowered to handle misbehavior with confidence and calm. Okay, number four is understanding how to say goodbye to punishment and hello to discipline so you can focus on connection over correction. So teaching life lessons with grace, dignity, and kindness will be one of the greatest things you ever do as a parent. And in order to do that, you're going to want to learn how to avoid punishment-based approaches that damage trust. And so long-term success is always what we're shooting for at Fresh Start Family. And I know a lot of us were conditioned, especially if you were raised in the evangelical church world, that instant obedience is the goal. It is the farthest from the goal. We want long-term success. We want to shape hearts and souls and minds of our children so they understand why long-term they want to keep their hands to themselves, why long-term they want to show respect even when things don't go their way and they feel angry or hurt, right? We want to teach them how to take care of themselves in a way that respects themselves and others when they feel hurt by the action of another human being. Like all these things, we want them to have those life skills 2, 5, 10, 20 years from now. The instant obedience model never was the way a human being was supposed to be taught. And it relies on fear. And so we get to do it different. We get to do it different with our children. And so when you learn to shift that and build connection while maintaining firm kindness by using logical consequences, natural consequences, and self calming really at the forefront of your discipline strategy, which, by the way, we'll teach about those in, I think it is day 4 of the New Year Kickstart Challenge. But it'll just change your life and it'll strengthen your relationship with your kids, and you'll start to see them trusting you and telling you the truth and admitting faults and mistakes. Whereas, for many of us, that was just not the norm in our family, like we spoke about earlier. Okay, last one, as far as the 5 steps to fresh start your family in 2025, is to really step into empowerment and become aware of cycle awareness and tap into true power as a parent. So when you open your eyes to your own patterns, you start to take like radical responsibility for your part of the dance, right? And so it is just so empowering when you realize that you are not a victim to your children. And so I know, it often feels like it. It feels like if they were to just be more easy or just, you know, not do X, Y, or Z, that then you could relax. Then you'd be able to not yell. Then you'd be able to be more patient and understanding. Like it actually doesn't happen like that. It has to be the other way around first. The parent has to be able to show that and lead the way with that for the child to be able to respond. And I know from experience that it is very hard to see that sometimes. And especially for those of us who were raised in any type of shame-based environment, that if you made a mistake and you were wrong, so to speak, like you should feel bad about it, right? Like shame on you was one of my mom's favorite phrases growing up. And so you grow up with this mentality of like, yikes, if I'm part of the dance, then that makes me bad. That makes me a bad parent. That means I'm failing. No, it doesn't. It just means that you're going to keep banging your head into a wall and not getting the results that you want if you keep the blinders on. But once you become aware, oh, I see what happens every time there's a stimulus. I get triggered. I react in this way. It's not helping. It's probably making things worse. This is what my child is learning from this. Then they repeat the behavior and then you wake up and do it again the next day. And this happens with power struggles. This happens with punishment cycles. This happens with revenge behavior. This happens with communication. Like there's just these loops, like hamster wheels, that when you don't have awareness around them, it just creates so much frustration because you don't understand what's happening. And it can become really easy to fall into victims, like into a pattern of blaming your kid. And that in itself creates such a like a rift in the relationship that it makes things worse, misbehavior spikes, and it's just not what we want for you. So tapping into cycle awareness, that true power that comes from when you approach a child and say, hey, I'm going to teach you a new way by showing you a new way, and we're not going to do it like this anymore. I know for the past few years, I've been threatening you when you don't listen. I know I've been spanking. I've been hitting and harming you to try to teach you not to hit and harm others. I want to stop this cycle. I see my part of the dance. I see that when it comes to you aggressively reacting when things aren't going your way, that I am partly responsible for teaching you that. And we take it one step farther here at Fresh Start Family because we don't just leave you there. That's what you need to understand, listeners, is we help you take responsibility without the shame. And, the shame is the part that keeps families stuck. And if you have that shame of thinking like there's something wrong with you because you've operated like this as a parent, then you're not going to be able to get that positive movement that you want within your family lineage and within your home in 2025. What's actually honestly happening is you're just a human parent Nobody gives us a manual when we have kids. So we do our best. We try to figure it out. And the best parents step into education and learn how to do things differently when things aren't going perfectly in their home. And most parents don't have things going perfectly in their home. So, newsflash, you're normal, nothing wrong with you. And it's just the most powerful thing you can do for yourself in 2025 is to step into education. So, the best way to do that is to get into our New Year Kickstart Challenge and really just empower yourself with learning new tools and strategies and ways to see the world. We will start on January 27th. So, we want to make sure you get registered. You can head to freshstartfamilyonline.com/challenge to save your seat, but it's going to be so much fun. You get lessons emailed directly to your email inbox every single morning. You don't even have to be there live. All you need is 15 to 20 minutes a day. You can do this. 15 to 20 minutes a day, families. I believe in you. It is time for you to believe in yourself, and we're going to cover these 5 key areas, and we're going to give you education. We're going to give you practical tips and tools and takeaways that is going to change your life. I promise you. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of this conversation and really looking at how we can fresh start our families and especially our legacies as parents by kind of that drone bird's eye view of looking at the big picture items. And these 5 key areas is really what we see works when families step in to education and implementation while being fully supported in these areas. So we will see you at the New Year Kickstart Challenge. Thanks for listening as always, and make sure you share this with a friend if you feel like they would benefit too. You can screenshot right now and share to social media. I'm at Fresh Start Wendy. Tag me, and I would love to just chat with you a little bit in DMs. Let me know what encouraged you about this episode and if you are excited for the New Year Kickstart Challenge. All right, see you in the next episode and at the challenge.
Hooray! You made it to the end of a Fresh Start Family Show episode. Thank you so much for being here. If you have a quick second, make sure you hit subscribe to our show so you can be updated when our new episodes drop. I will see you back soon for the next episode.
Don't forget to go save your seat now for our free 5-day challenge that starts on Monday, January 27th. In addition to the free daily lessons that you'll get when you register for the New Year Kickstart Challenge, you'll also get access to the private community via a non-social media based app, and I'll be answering questions and providing individualized coaching every day of the challenge. After you register, I'll send you a prep kit to get you all set up to get started. And just remember, you do not have to attend anything live to take part in this challenge. Lessons are short and are able to be watched on demand. So it will work to get this Kickstart program done no matter how busy you are as a parent. Save your seat now at freshstartfamilyonline.com/kickstart or just DM me the word Kickstart on Instagram. You can find me at Fresh Start Wendy, and I'll personally DM you a link to learn more and save your seat. I'll see you there.